afternoon, everyone. We want to welcome you to this afternoon's webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We're really excited about today's presentation. We have a double treat today, actually a 2-in-1. So I want to welcome everyone again. My name is Shonda Harris. I'm a business opportunity specialist with the Columbus SBA. And we're really excited that we're able to be doing this webinar. Today's webinar is a part of a series of webinars actually that we've been doing over the last almost month. We started back in March 27th, and then today is actually our last day. So again, this is a series in preparation for our signature contracting event, the Ohio Business Matchmaker, which will be taking place on May 8th and May 9th down in Dayton at the Wright State University Nutter Center. So hopefully you have been on some additional webinars that we've been putting over the past month, or maybe you've attended a matchmaker in the past. If so, definitely always good to have you back. If not, if you're new to government contracting, or you may not be new to government contracting, but now you've been doing government contracting for a couple years, and now maybe you're looking for a mentor, or you want to become a mentor to a protege. Well, you're in the right place today. Again, this webinar series, we're grateful to be a part of this, not just as one agency, but there's actually a partnership of several different agencies that are able to bring the matchmaker and these webinars and put them on for you. So we at the SBA are grateful that we can work with the state of Ohio Department of Development, the Small Business Development Center, the Minority Business Assistance Centers, and the Apex Accelerators. So with that, well, let me give a little layout of what we're going to do, and then I'll turn it over to the presenters. So today's session, again, we do have two parts. The first part is going to be an overview of the Mentor Protégé programs that both the Department of Defense have and the SBA. So we do want to share some information about both of those. And then after we hear a little bit of overview about how the programs work, we're actually going to jump into a panel discussion with actually two mentors and their proteges today. So with that said, I'll do a couple of housekeeping items, and then we'll go ahead and turn it over to the presenters for our overviews. Today's session is being recorded. So if you do want to go back and look at this, I'm sure there's going to be lots of great information and many jewels and gems that will be shared. So that recording will be posted on the Ohio Business Matchmaker website. And I'm going to ask Mr. Joey Scott if he can put that link in the chat. You can find the recording link there, as well as our slides for today. Also, all of the recording links from all of the other presentations. We kicked off this series on March 27th. I can't believe it. And we've been doing webinars 2 every week. So you can go out to the website and pull up all of those presentations, as well as the recording links. Additional, thank you, Joey. So that link is in the chat. Additional housekeeping items. If you do have a question, we are going to ask if you can type it in the chat, if at all possible. Maybe not use the Q&A portion, but just use the chat so that everybody can see your question. And we will have someone that will be monitoring the chat to answer those questions. All right. Well, without further ado, our very first portion of today's training is going to be an overview about the DoD Mentor Protégé Program and the SBA Mentor Protégé Program. And bringing the DoD overview is Mr. Joey Scott. In addition to doing his presentation, he's going to give you a little overview about the Apex Accelerator. Some of you may be new to government contracting, or you may need some assistance if you've been in business for a few years, or at any point in your journey in dealing with government contracting. The Apex Accelerator is a great resource. And then after you hear Joey, you are going to hear the voice of Jill Nagy Reynolds, who is my counterpart. The other BOS here, the Columbus District Office, will be giving the overview of the SBA Mentor Protege Program. All right, Joey, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Well, thank you, Shonda. And good afternoon, everyone. As you heard, I am Joey Scott. I am the statewide program manager for our Ohio Apex Accelerator program. And hopefully by now, if you've been attending these webinars, you've heard my spiel, you're hopefully familiar with the Apex Accelerators. But if not, we used to be called PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. And so with the new name, we still have the same great mission of helping Ohio businesses with all things government contracting. So we can assist from the front end, with helping you through entity registrations like sam.gov, Ohio Buys, helping you look at business certifications and if they make sense for you and if you're eligible, to helping you find contract opportunities. So we have a daily bid match service that we provide for free. All of our services are free and confidential. And so the daily bid match, that'll send contract opportunities to your inbox based on kind of a Google keyword search based on your products and services and industry that you operate in. Once you've found an opportunity, we can review it with you, review your solicitation documents, but review your proposals to them. We are not an agent of your company, meaning we cannot write anything on your behalf, but we can most certainly sit down and review your proposal and your responses to make sure that they are as well crafted as can be. And then once you've won an opportunity, we can help you on the post-award side of things too, from helping you walk through the invoice systems to understanding cybersecurity requirements or any other contract clauses. And so we do all of this. All of our services are provided through a variety of ways, most predominantly one-on-one counseling. So we have about 15 counselors all throughout the state of Ohio. We have wonderful local partners throughout the state. So we are funded in part by the Department of Defense and then the state of Ohio. And then our local partners are Youngstown State University, Ohio University, and Rhodes State College. And Ohio University provides coverage to most of the state with counselors all throughout. So we provide statewide coverage, meaning that there's a local Apex Accelerator in your area. So if you're not familiar with them, please reach out to me and I can get you connected. But yeah, we are here to help. So, and part of that too, not only do we provide one-on-one counseling, we also provide trainings, both virtual and in person, much like this training. And as you heard me mention earlier, with our new name, the reason for that is we shifted leadership within the Department of Defense. So we are now housed under the Office of Small Business Programs within the DoD. And so with that shift, we also were asked to help raise awareness for quite a few different initiatives, cybersecurity requirements, foreign ownership, control, and influence, innovation. The government loves their innovation programs, and most of you hopefully have heard about the Small Business Innovation Research Program, which the SBA oversees. But also, what we're going to talk about here today is Mentor Protege. And so similarly, I hope everyone has heard about the SBA Mentor Protege program before. And if not, Joe is going to dive into some greater detail in just a few minutes. But what I wanted to talk to you about is the DoD Mentor Protege program. And so the programs are very similar. And what people don't realize, and what I didn't realize until last year, the DoD Mentor Protege program was a pilot program since its inception. So that was about 30 years. This program was a pilot until last year when it became made a program of record. And what does that mean? Well, now it's an official program with official funding behind it. And like I said, it's very similar to the SBA program with some key differences. And so with the DoD Mentor Protege program, it's specifically, Mentor Protege agreement related to a defense entity, Army, Navy, et cetera, et cetera. And so in it, the key components here, mentors within the program can receive reimbursements for the assistance that they provide to their proteges. So the whole point about Mentor Protege program, in both respects, is really, a successful contractor who's the mentor is passing along their knowledge and expertise and resources to a small business who similarly is in a kind industry, but needs kind of that business development side that they don't have the expertise or experience within government contracting. So they rely upon that mentor to really take them under their wing and guide them through the process. And so in the DoD Mentor Protege program, the time and effort that a mentor may provide to a protege can have some kind of cost reimbursement components under the right circumstances. Additionally, the proteges may only have one active DoD Mentor Protege agreement at a time. So they could have multiple throughout their life of the business, but only one can be active at a time. With the launch of the DoD Mentor Protege program being a program of record, they have a new portal, a new website where all the mentors and interested mentors. So if you're interested in being a mentor, you can go to that link there and access portal, sign up to be a mentor. And at some point in time, I don't have the details when, but the theory is, or the goal rather, is eventually there'll be a nice portal where you can go in and see a list of eligible mentors and try to make it easier to find mentors. As far as the mentor requirements, company has to have a active contract with a subcontracting plan requirement, meaning they need to find small businesses to subcontract with. That mentor also needs to have at least $25 million in DoD contracts within the previous fiscal year. And they need to be other than small. In certain circumstances, that can be waived, but primarily the DoD Mentor Protege program, the mentors are going to be a large business, which is considered other than small. One of those exceptions, they can be an 8A graduate with documentation proving that they can serve as a mentor. I got one other slide here for you on the Mentor Protege program, and that is focusing on the protege eligibility. So we talked about, who can be a mentor, and hopefully that gives you an idea as you're looking to seek out companies, but who can be a protege? Well, just about any small business concern. You have to be small within your industry based on the North American Industry Classification System, or NAICS codes. And the SBA has a great size table, interactive table, where you can put in your information and let you know if you meet those requirements or not. So that way you're not looking through a very detailed list of industry codes and size standards. Additionally, the small business can have no ownership affiliation with their mentor. So you cannot be kind of double dipping there. So that's important to note. And then additionally, under DoD Mentor Protege program, the proteges need to have, they need to be operating in a space that's critical to enhancing the DoD supplier base. What does that mean? Basically, you need to have a product or service that the DoD is buying. So if they don't have a need for it, you're really not going to be much benefit in this program. So that is kind of the quick overview of the DoD Mentor Protege program. Like I said, I wanted to highlight the key differences because they are very similar in most other all functionality between the DoD and SBA Mentor Protege program. But I will pause there for any questions.
I don't see any questions.
All right, perfect. So I think without further ado, now that I have you warmed up, I'm going to turn things over to Jill. So Jill is going to dive into the SBA Mentor Protege program. And so I'll do a little introduction. I don't get to do introductions too much on these. I'm usually the guy behind the curtain, running the back end stuff. So fun little fact, Jill and Shonda used to be PTACers back when we were under our old name. So you got a great wealth of knowledge in both of them. And now they serve in an expanded capacity within the SBA. So Jill and Shonda are both business opportunity specialists out of the Columbus SBA district office. And so Jill and Shonda, we've been working together for many years, not just on the Matchmaker webinars and Matchmaker itself, but also with supporting clients and really getting them connected to opportunities. Most, predominantly here today is Mentor Protégé, and really seeing how these businesses, those connections are made. And so Jill, without further ado, I'll turn it over to you and let you dive into the SBA Mentor Protégé.
Thank you so much, Joey. I really appreciate it. And it's a pleasure always to present on the Mentor Protégé program. We are going to be very quick about this, though, because you are not attending this really to have just a technical death by PowerPoint about the Mentor Protégé program. All of the slides will be on the SBA Mentor Protégé program, I should say. All of the slides will be available on the Ohio Business Matchmaker website in about a week, as well as the Ohio University Apex Accelerator website. So don't worry about taking copious notes. And also, if you have questions afterwards, you can always email me whatever question you have. I'm happy to try and answer it. Before I get started officially, I want to let everyone know that early bird registration for the Matchmaker ends on April 30th. It's $99 right now. Starting on May 1st, I think it goes up to $130. So if you haven't registered for the Matchmaker yet and you intend to go, now is the time to register. So just keep that in mind. And as I hit share screen here, I did a practice like I should have, but I recently got Zoom on this computer, so I am still navigating that. I'm going to turn off my camera. You all know what I look like. So this is me. I'll turn myself back on later. But let me go.
Stop sharing.
Yeah, okay. Let's see here, Shonda. Screen. All right, am I on full screen?
Yes, looks good.
Awesome. And Shonda, if I'm missing something, please feel free to just
I
enter
got you.
add. That's the beauty. The two of us have worked together for a long time, and just we don't have the opportunity to be on many webinars together. So
Teamwork. Yeah.
This is my contact information. Really, the best way to reach me is via email. This 427-1352 that rings in through my computer. But sometimes questions can be complex. So if you're able to write it out and send it to me, then I can easily forward it to people smarter than me if I need to. So sometimes technical questions can get us pretty far into the weeds, and I want to make sure that I'm giving you the right answers. So you feel free to call me, but you can also email me. We are not going to spend a whole lot of time on SBA's core areas of service just for the sake of time. It's essentially, most of you probably know the SBA through access to capital. But Shonda and I, we focus more on the government contracting and small business programs, which is why you are on this call today. So the three areas of focus are contracting, counseling, and access to capital. Any loan questions? I know enough to be dangerous with giving misinformation. So I always tend to have my colleagues, Jerome Jones and Dave Townsend at the Columbus District, answer most lending questions. So what are the benefits of the SBA Mentor Protégé program? So the slides really don't talk about the history of the Mentor Protégé program, but I think it's interesting because it used to just be open to 8A firms. And then I can't remember which National Defense Authorization Act it became the All Small Mentor Protégé Program. And then eventually it morphed into the SBA Mentor Protégé Program. So essentially, this is a business development program that is open to all small businesses, regardless of your certification. So if you are self-certified as a small business in SAM, you're eligible to be a protege. And you're also eligible to be a protege if you are a woman-owned small business, a hub zone, a service-disabled veteran-owned, or woman-owned or 8A, any of the categories. So we're going to talk about why you would consider the Mentor Protege program. And then what are the benefits of it to you? Well, to the mentor and to the protege. So I speak mostly you as protege because I mostly meet with small businesses, but certainly there could be mentors that potential mentors that are a part of this conversation as well. So first and foremost, the SBA Mentor Protege Program, it is a business development agreement. So it's a legally binding business development agreement. And it was designed to enhance the capabilities of protege firms to provide business development assistance. So we as government officials, government employees, you know, we are very good at providing resources and letting you know regulations and you can do this and no, you can't do that. Everything that's around, well, at least for me, like the SBA regulations. But I am not a boot on the ground. I don't know exactly how to run a construction company, nor would you want to ask me advice on that, you know, or an IT company. But if you have questions about, you know, the service disabled veteran owned program or you know, what are the compliance regulations around 8A, I know all of that stuff. But the day-to-day operations of your business, that is where the Mentor Protege program could be of such benefit to small businesses that are developing and want to enhance their capabilities. So this program is really designed to bring a business that's been in business for a while and kind of knows the ropes into a business development agreement with a business that's new and may need assistance in growing within their field. And so these slides just talk about what would be the benefit of it and what is it exactly? What does it mean to have a business development agreement? So SBA came up with these guidelines here. So it says this assistance may include like guidance on internal business management systems, accounting, marketing, manufacturing if you're a manufacturer, financial assistance in the form of equity investments. You know, anytime I meet with a firm to discuss that, I really hope you do talk to SBA about that part because you can, a mentor can own up to 40% equity interest. But you know, that's a big decision. They don't have to. You know, you, the mentor, and your protege have the ability to talk about any of these different business development strategies, and you can do some of them, or you know, a couple of them, all of them, or additional ones. So, but SBA put this list in here to kind of, hey, here are the things that you can do in this business development agreement. So. Assistance in navigating federal contract bidding, acquisition in the federal procurement process, education about international trade, business development, including strategy in identifying contracting and partnership opportunities, general administrative assistance. And I would say also what I've seen over the years that's so important, we do have contract bidding, but capture management is such a huge deal when you're getting started in federal government because understanding how that works is like pushing a boulder uphill. As soon as you think you know something, then you realize there's three things you don't know. So when firms come to me and ask what type of mentor should I be looking for, it is a business decision on your part, but I see the more successful relationships with companies that were familiar with federal contracting and they became the mentor to a business that's new to federal contracting. So I've had firms before that For example, from my perspective with 8A firms, I had an 8A firm that, they were in construction and they're like, oh, I got, I'm going to mentor, with this company. And it was a great, huge construction company, but they had never done federal work before. So if you're partnering with someone that's never done federal work, you're having to learn that at the same time, and it's a different language, different culture, different set of regulations, as our mentors and proteges that are on this panel today will be able to explain just how different it is, and just the challenges that can be overcome with it. So just as a general, the business development assistance can include those things. It's not limited to that, but those are the major things that SBA outlined in the 13 CFR, which is our regulations around small business programs, including Mentor Protege. So once a mentor and a protege form and get approved a mentor protege agreement by the SBA, they can form a joint venture agreement. So a joint venture agreement is a separate legal entity. It is a business. So the joint venture agreement needs a tax ID number. It needs a bank account number. It needs a SAM registration. What the mentor and the protege can do. So when that joint venture agreement is formed, the protege, the protege is the 51% owner of the joint venture. And the regulations state that the joint venture can then be used to bid on whatever contracts the protege is qualified for. So if that protege happens to be a small woman-owned hub zone, service disabled veteran-owned business, then that joint venture can be used to bid on small business set-asides, women-owned small business set-asides, hub zone set-asides, and service disabled veteran-owned small business set-asides. Or if they're just a small business, they can be used to bid on small business. So that is the real benefit to the mentor, is that they then have access to a larger piece of the federal government contracting pie by being able to form a joint venture agreement with a protege that happens to be any of the certified small business categories. So the SBA must approve the mentor protege agreement first before the two firms can submit a JV or joint venture on an offer. So what I've told firms over the years is, like, if you know that you intend to form a mentor protege together and you've submitted the documentation to the SBA, you can go ahead and start the process for the joint venture agreement, because it takes a little bit of time to get the entity registered in SAM and get like the cage code and all of those things. So you can be working on that at the same time you're waiting for approval from SBA. Now I want to foot stomp again, and I know I started the presentation by saying this, but an approved mentor protege agreement is not a joint venture agreement. So you cannot use your mentor it's just the mentor protege agreement is an agreement. It's a piece of paper. The joint venture is the business that you can use to bid on contracts. I've had just a lot of confusion around that, because a lot of mentors and proteges, once they have their agreement, they try and they think they can use the agreement to bid on contracts, and you can't do that. So I love to show where all of this information originates from, and just in case you can't sleep at night and you're really excited to learn more about the Mentor Protégé program, you can find the full set of regulations under 13 CFR 125.9. So what are the qualifications to be a mentor? So a mentor can be any concern that demonstrates a commitment and ability to assist small business concerns. They can act as a mentor. They're encouraged to provide assistance related to the performance of contracts, so that protege firms may more fully develop their capabilities. So in order to qualify as a mentor, you can't be on the federal debarred list or suspended contractors, but you also have to be capable of carrying out the responsibilities to assist the protege. And you intend to impart value to the protege firm due to lessons learned. Those are so important. Practical experience gained through its knowledge of general business operations. Again, those are things that only a work colleague could do. And that is really the essence of the Mentor Protege program, is business to business collaboration. Now, mentors can have more than one protege at a time. And when the firms apply for a mentor protege program, the mentor has to say if they have any other proteges, but they have to also demonstrate at the time of application that the mentor protege relationship will not adversely affect the development of either protege firm. So really where I see, or where I've seen in the past, where a mentor has more than one protege, the NAICS codes aren't competing with each other and they're bidding in separate markets. So the mentor might have a protege firm to go after, for example, IT work in specifically the Navy, or specifically Army Navy. But then they have a second mentor protege agreement with a protege firm that goes after specifically construction. I mean, I know those are two separate families, but as long as you're able to demonstrate to SBA that these two relationships are not going to be conflicting with each other, and in fact, they complement, and it's just the mentor wanting to impart business development to more than one protege at a time, they can do that. But again, they have to demonstrate that the proteges will not be competing against each other. All right. So in order to be a protege, the protege has to be self-certified as small for its primary, that self-certification is through sam.gov. So hopefully all of you are had a chance to attend our prior trainings, and you know how to become self-certified as a small business, or how you get your self-certification. It's through registering your business in SAM. So when you register your business in SAM, however, you do have to pick a primary NAICS code, and that primary NAICS code is where the majority of your income is coming from. So even if you intend down the road to transition from one code to another, you have to choose one as your primary. And I know for the 8A program, the analysts that go through and certify 8A firms, they check that primary NAICS code to make sure that is where the majority of your income is coming from. And one thing I learned through the COVID years and working with firms with the PPP program, like a lot of times accountants will put NAICS codes in on your tax returns that you didn't realize that they put as your primary NAICS code. Because we had some issues with that, because firms didn't even know they had a primary NAICS code. Now, you can also apply for the Mentor Protege under a secondary NAICS code, but that gets a little weedy. Like I had a firm that was trying to get into the Mentor Protege under a secondary NAICS code, but all of their work was outside of the government. So they had to essentially say, hey, yes, I did this work and it falls under this NAICS code. But it's not federal work. I just know that it falls under that NAICS code. It did get approved, but they had to go back and forth with the SBA a little bit on it. So the SBA will not approve a secondary NAICS code Mentor Protege agreement unless you have demonstrated experience under that secondary NAICS code. So that's where, when I was working with that firm, they did have it, but it wasn't federal. And it doesn't have to be federal. You just have to, in your write-up, put, hey, this falls under NAICS code 541511, because it's IT services. You know, you just have to explain. You want to make it as easy as possible for the approvers on the other end to approve you. So the more you're able to explain, the better. So for proteges, protege firms may generally only have one mentor at a time. SBA may approve a second mentor for a particular protege where the second relationship will not compete or conflict with the first mentor-protege relationship. So in the case where that can be approved is the second relationship pertains to an unrelated NAICS code, or the protege firm is seeking to acquire specific expertise. Again, that's where communication comes in. So when you're writing up your mentor protege agreement, you're going to say, hey, this mentor is an expert at, you know, specialty widgets. And so only this mentor knows how to do that. And so you would explain how great they are and why you need that mentor protege agreement with them. Now, SBA may authorize a small business to be both a protege and a mentor at the same time. And we actually have in our district a firm that is a mentor and a protege. And they may be on the panel this afternoon, but I'm not sure. But yes, so it can happen. And they just have to demonstrate where the second relationship will not compete or conflict with the first mentor protege relationship. So what is a mentor protege agreement? It is a written agreement. Now, anytime I meet with firms that want to do mentor protege and the mentor is the one that's leading, that's where we stop. Because this is a relationship where the protege really should be, yes, you're there for business development, but how are you going to learn unless you're really the one that is telling the mentor what your business development needs are? The mentor shouldn't be telling you what they are. You should be telling the mentor what they are. So we do have templates that I'm happy to give you so that you can take a look at it. But it is a written agreement where you have to provide a detailed description and a timeline. That's the big one, timeline for delivery. So anytime anyone asks me, hey, can you review this mentor protege agreement? Yes, I will. But if I see that your timeline isn't there, it's going to be rejected by headquarters. You have to provide, we're going to meet with our mentor weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, daily, hourly. We don't care. Just have a timeline on there and then follow through. I mean, this is really for you to have like a strategic, this is like a strategic plan, you know, and how are you going to follow through with it? Okay. So once you have the agreement, everything, you also have to complete an hour-long tutorial that's on the Certify website, and I have a slide that shows the Certify website. So you have to do it. The protege has to do the tutorial. The mentor has to do the tutorial. Then together, you upload your mentor protege agreement. And keep in mind that does need to be approved by SBA. It goes all the way up to our associate administrator. That's a really important person up at headquarters that will sign that. And SBA does have the right to deny it. For the most part, though, we're trying to work with you. The agreement, inside of the agreement, it has to have a writing that says either the mentor or the protege may terminate the agreement with 30 days advance notice to either party, and then you can let the SBA know. That's important because you have the ability as a protege to sever the relationship at any time. The mentor can also sever the relationship at any time, and the SBA can sever the relationship at any time. But as long as I've never done that, I would never even think of doing that without making sure both the mentor and the protege want that, you know, or if it's reached a point where there's no communication at all, then, you know, that's on a case-by-case basis, and we'll do some mediation in between. So mentor protege agreements, he may not exceed 6 years. And if an initial mentor protege agreement is for less than 6 years, it can be extended by mutual agreement prior to the expiration date for an additional amount of time that would total no more than 6 years from its inception. So it automatically renews. That's important. It just automatically renews without additional written notice from the SBA. You do have to do a survey of how the Mentor Protégé agreement is working, and that comes from Certify. So you have to provide documentation of how the relationship is benefiting you if you're the protege. And here is a very, very important slide that I want all of you to know, because a protege may generally have a total of 2 mentor protege agreements, and this is for the life of your business. So like, this is really important to think strategically about when to form a mentor protege agreement and with whom. So they did, meaning the regulations or Congress, we added a provision in the regulations that says if the mentor protege agreement is not working within the first 18 months of the relationship, so that 18 months is key, you, the protege, can terminate or annul the relationship prior to that 18 months passing, and it does not count towards the 2 mentor protege agreements for life. But remember, you have to comply with that 30-day advance notice. So you can't wait until like 17 months before, or you can't wait until that 18 months and say, okay, SBA, it didn't work. I want out of the relationship. Okay, fine. Did you tell your mentor? Did you give him 30 days notice? No. Well, I'm sorry then, because by the time you give them that 30 days notice, it'll be over that 18 months. So you have to be really on top of that. Okay. SBA has to approve all changes to the mentor protege agreement in advance. Just keep an open line of communication with us. And sometimes, now that, when Shonda and I first started with SBA, and for years and years prior to that, the SBA Mentor Protégé Program, the documentation, the approval, all of that was done at the district level. So I would always know when I had an 8A firm, at least, that was interested in Mentor Protégé, because I would work with them and get it approved and send it up to headquarters and whatnot. Now that has changed. So now, with the Mentor Protégé agreement being for all businesses, it's done through headquarters. So if especially if you're an 8A firm that works with us, and even if you're not, if you wanted to do a material change to your Mentor Protégé agreement and you're not hearing back from the Mentor Protégé office at headquarters, you can let one of us know, and we can ask on your behalf. We don't have any control over the application process at all. But we can say, hey, SBA office, this applicant hasn't heard back from you for a while. Is there anything that any information you can give me? We'd be happy to do that. Okay, again, I really spent a lot of time on firms cannot obtain a federal contract with an SBA approved Mentor Protégé agreement alone. You can tell we've gotten this question a lot. So again, you got to have your joint venture agreement. The other thing is SBA does not match mentor firms with protege firms. We do, however, as many networking events as we can to have in person for people to meet with each other. And federal agencies do a good job of having like industry days or networking events, mixers, whatever. You do have to get yourself out there. That is part of this process. You've got to get out and you have to go out and meet the agencies, meet your colleagues, and more remove yourself from the mindset of that they're your competitors. They may be your competitors in the commercial world, but when it comes to federal contracting, your ability to team with each other can really measure your success. So go to the networking events, go to the mixers, go to trade shows are great too, if you have the budget for those, but the industry days mostly I don't think cost very much, or they're nominal. The Ohio Business Matchmaker that's in, 2 weeks. There is a cost for that, but it's only for food, so we can cover the price of food and venue, so. And and it's not just for you to meet with federal agencies, it's for you to meet with each other too, like to stand in line with each other and talk, or talk to each other during the reception, and you know, get to know each other. So another big question is, how long does it take? I'm sure, it's taking longer than we would like. So in the best case scenario, it takes 15 days of screening. So screening is when an analyst at headquarters gets your application, they look at it and they say, hey, can you add this? Or I need more information on that, or whatever. So once that's done, then it's 90 days from a complete application. So totaling 105 days. I will tell you that the Mentor Protégé team is understaffed at headquarters, so it is taking longer than, or it had been taking longer than that 105 days. They are working on getting additional resources to process them faster, however. So to apply for it, you go to SBA's certified portal. Now my reds don't match, I don't like that. I couldn't get this red somehow. Oh, well, that's okay. So there's the certified portal, click on the Mentor Protégé program, and then get started. And again, this is my recommendation, not SBA's, but I do like to see the protege lead the application process. Okay. And just general, anytime I have a presentation, I just want to, especially when I have firms that are just wanting to dive into one of our certification programs like 8A that has a distinct timeline. Have you done business with the federal government in the past? If you haven't, you need to give yourself some time to learn how to do it. And a lot of times it's subcontracting that can help you get to know the culture, get to know the paperwork, get to know the acquisition strategy, you know, the time cycle and all of that. Are you financially prepared? Okay, so if you're a $100,000 company and then you get a 5-year, $10 million contract, how are you going to financially support your labor and materials until you start getting paid? So do you have a relationship with your lender? You know, can you get a line of credit? Can you get a loan if you need to? A big one, do you have the ability to get a facility clearance or secret clearance? A lot of DoD contracts require that. And so that's not something the government will just give you. It's something that that most firms for the first time getting it subcontract with a company that has it. Now, has your business met and continued to meet with Apex? I mean, so many firms are like, yeah, I met with them, it's been like 2 years. Okay, well, it's time to go back. Time to go back. All right, and that's it. I am done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. As you can see, Jill is definitely passionate, not just about giving you information about the program, but also making sure that we always want our firms to be successful in the field of government contracting, so in that sector. So I thank you for the examples. Thank you, Jill, for that additional information and for the examples. Because we do work with a lot of different firms, not just the firms that we service, but a lot of different firms come to us with questions. So again, thank you for that.
I will stop.
I don't know. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you do have questions, you can go ahead and put them in there as we transition to the panel discussion, because we can perhaps maybe our panelists may be able to answer it, or if we need to have Jill answer it, we still can. So, all right. We are at the point where we are going to transition, and now we get to hear from, as Jill said, we work with firms and we can tell you about the program, but a lot of times I always encourage my firms, hey, get information from the government resources, but more importantly, get information from the small businesses. They have the boots on the ground. They've been there, they've done that, they understand. So with that, we do have a distinguished panel today with us. I'm not going to introduce them. We'll start off and we'll allow them to introduce themselves. We have two mentors and two proteges. And I'm going to, since one of the Mentor Protege teams has a female, we'll allow that team to go first. We'll be courteous to them and allow them to go first to introduce themselves, and then the second. I do have two overviews, so I can show yours. And if you don't mind, we'll allow Andrea to go first, and she is the only female. And again, I'll let them introduce themselves. So Andrea, if you want to go, and while you're going, I will pull up your overview.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Shonda, and thanks for having us as part of the panel. So as Shonda mentioned, I'm the president of Peerless Technologies Corporation. We are the mentor in a mentor protege with our partner company, Sierra Tech, and Raul is here as well. He'll go after me, I'm sure. So I'll just give you a quick overview of Peerless Technologies. So we are headquartered right across the street from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I can see AFIT and AFRL out my window here. We were a startup company in 2000 and have grown over the last almost 25 years to just under 500 employees. So we do professional services for the federal government. We do a lot of engineering, electronic warfare. We serve the Air Force, Army, Navy, and NASA. And we, as we've grown, we've looked at different ways to partner with other companies to continue providing the great work that our team provides to our customers. And one of those avenues for us has been using the SBA Mentor Protégé and joint venture program. So we've had a lot of success on our Sierra Tech Peerless joint venture. We've won several task orders together and just have enjoyed advancing our partnership. Raul and I have known each other a long time, and we've enjoyed growing both of our companies through the program.
Awesome. You're finished?
I'm good. I'll turn it back over to you or Raul.
Okay, let me stop. And talking about being strategic, right across from Wright Pat, that's strategic. All right, that's definitely strategic location. All right, Raul, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Shonda. I'm Raul Sierra. I'm the president and CEO of Sierra Tech. We're located within a mile of Peerless, so I can't see AFIT or anything, but I can certainly walk there if need there be. You know, Sierra Tech has been around since 2007, and you know, when I first started Sierra Tech, it was more of a, you know, to do consulting on the side, you know, as I have my regular full-time job. And you know, in my regular full-time job, I used to work for what was then another 8A company. And my gosh, we were just starting back in 2005, 6, 7. And even then, you know, Pierre was gracious enough to let me camp in their offices for several months until that company was able to afford to give me an office in town. So it was, you know, it's been a long time, you know, the relationship has. You know, we are currently around 200 employees. You know, the head count goes up and down almost daily because we're quite active, you know, in bidding contracts. But you know, we also are now a protege in a different mentor protege relationship. So we learn enough from our relationship with Peerless that we were able to actually help other company, one other company right now, to grow and to learn, you know, the intricacies of government contracting, and help them mature as they go along. Anyhow, we're in 12 states, as the chart says, and you know, we're very happy with the relationship with Peerless. Gained quite a bit of experience, especially, you know, in areas that we weren't experience that we didn't have. I mean, we had a lot of IT and administrative and program management, but the engineering and some of the other higher contracts that require higher level of subject matter experts, peerless has been key to getting us into that area. But anyhow, I'll turn it over back to you, Shonda. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Raul. Each of them have brought up some great points that we will hopefully flesh out in this panel discussion once we hear from our other panelists and we start to dive into the questions. So now the next Mentor Protege partnership relationship, Mr. Al Powell and Mr. Ben Nwanko.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon. I'll let Ben go first.
Should I go first?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thank you, Al. Well, thank you, Jill, and thank you, Chandra, for the opportunity to be here today. And thank you to Andre and Raul, for being here to bring enlightenment, to this discussion today. It's greatly appreciated. My name is Ben Nwanko. I am the president and CEO of Our Business Construction Company. We are a construction service organization, and we are located in Cincinnati, Ohio. Unfortunately, we are not located across Wright-Patterson Air Force Base like Andre, but we do a lot of work over at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, if you will. Our specialty has always been in federal contracting. And since inception, we have done work for Department of Defense. We've done work for, United States Corps of Engineers. We've done work for the Air Force, and we've done work for Ohio Air National Guard. We've also done work, a little bit of work, for the city. So far we've been all over. We've done the project in North Carolina, which is the Army headquarters over there in North Carolina. We've done projects, barrack building at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. We've done a project at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Currently, we are at Wright-Pat, we are at Ohio Air National Guard, and then we have a few private clients. So our experience with the Mentor Protege has been a great one. It's been a great journey, and we have, collectively, between my previous relationship as a protege and the current relationship with CPM as a mentor, we've completed over $75 million worth of contract, in the books in federal contracting, not including the private opportunities, that we've been doing as well. So, we are glad to be here, and we are very, very appreciative of all the support that we have received from the program. And that is why I jumped on this opportunity to be able to let my peers, to know that, hey, don't be afraid of this. Don't be afraid to give back. Don't be afraid to get into this relationship with the protege, to help them grow their organization. So I'm going to yield here and turn that over to Al. Hopefully he will agree with what I just said.
I do welcome everyone. And I also would like to thank Jill and Sandra for this opportunity, because I can just tell you, I've been truly blessed because of the Mentor Protege program. I spent my wheels going in a circle, not being able to get jobs, big jobs and opportunities, because I was going about it the wrong way. when this was approved, it was a blessing in disguise. I remember the first job, CPM one with Iowa. It was during the pandemic time. Things was hard to come by, and my mentor warned me this was going to be a tight budget.
Mm.
He wasn't kidding, because when it came to payday, it was tight, but it was our first win. And what I want to let people know is get your first win, second win, and you start to understand the progress in which and the process that you have to go through to bid on the contracts. If you out there just wanting to get in the program, think you're gonna make $1 million a year, it doesn't work like that. And why I'm not rich yet. So I'm just happy, and then now that we've done $75 million worth of work and wait on other awards, it's been very, very beneficial to us. And if you're lost, you need to just keep shopping around and get the right fit. It took a while for Ben and I to come together. Cost time. Excuse me. We vetted each other. Probably took about 2 years to come to the agreement. So don't rush into anything. So that's what I got to say, and I'm glad to be participating today.
Awesome. Well, we are glad to have both Mentor Protege teams, if you will, partnership relationships. And we chose them because they are companies that Jill and I have worked with directly, and they are kind of the experts in their field. And then they have definitely gained expertise through the Mentor Protege program. And then also gained expertise, as Jill mentioned, you can't use a mentor protege relationship to actually go after a contract. So you have to form a joint venture, which both of our mentor protege partnerships have done. So actually, Al, you kind of answered a couple of questions that we're going to dive into, but I think I want to allow everybody to kind of hear how did you find your mentor, your protege? I know Andrea said she and Raul, which we didn't know. We were on one of the training sessions for this. She said she's known him for almost 20-something years. But if somebody wants to answer, how did you find your mentor or your protege? And then what are some of the key characteristics that make your relationship unique and a good fit for, your team? It sounds like, I don't know, Al, do you have on I hear some feedback. So I don't know if somebody also has on a phone or something. Okay.
I don't.
Okay. All right. So if somebody wants to jump in, how did you find your mentor or your protege? And then what are some of the key characteristics that make your mentor protege relationship unique or a good fit for you?
Well, for me, I got a list of people that was expiring, and from
and when
the
you mean
program,
because everybody doesn't know, when you mean expiring, what are you? I know what you're referring to.
Since I was so immersed in the 8A program, I was looking for other programs that were on their last a year or two, and that may wanted to serve as a mentor to me and go into what I call the afterworld. Once they're done, it then show us the routes. And that took a while because you have to have the right fit. If you're going in construction, you can't go in business with a brain surgeon. You need the person that knows the business. And I had environmental construction background, which is different from pure construction. So through a friend, I was introduced to Ben after vetting about 2 other people. And like I said, it took about 2 years for us to really mesh up and come together. We liked each other from the beginning, but you have to really understand who you're about to deal with. You have to understand that they have strengths that you don't have, whether it's from bonding or financial. You have to understand that they know the program and have a 5-to-1 ratio win rate, or because it's a lot of people competing. You're not going to win every contract that you go after. So you have to understand this and then see if you can help that mentor with your strengths. And by me having some environmental background and he having construction, it was a good marriage because I can handle a lot of the environmental and safety needs because I had all my core safety certifications. So, and was very astute in the construction engineering background. So it was a good fit.
All right, great. And so in his relationship, Al's relationship with Ben, Al is the protege and Ben is the mentor. And the certification he was referring to is the 8A certification. So that is one strategy if you do have a federal certification. In this instance, 8A is for those that are economically and socially disadvantaged. It's a 9-year program. And so he was looking for somebody that was getting out of the 8A program, just to kind of give a little background on that. Since Al went, Ben, do you want to add a little bit to that?
Yeah, just a little bit to that. What Al left behind is that CPM, one of their expertise is also in demolition. And as you know, some of the contract that we have gone after, they do have that demolition scope. And CPM was instrumental in working through even at the proposition bidding stage to be able to say, we can do this, you can do that, and you can. So they brought in an expertise, knowledge that we incorporated into our proposal before that went out. So that was very, very important. Also, like Al said, it took us a couple of years, to be able to begin to pursue contract. So the first year was just getting to know each other. So we were not in a rush because, people have to understand that the Mentor Protégé is a business development program. So it's not about going after the money, it's a business development program, and people fail when they keep the money in front of everything. You have to be able to have the passion and the commitment to help somebody else, to help the protege develop their business. You've got to be there to answer their question and then help them to overcome their challenges. And also you have to be financially fit, be able to support the protege or whatever contract that both of you are working on. So that's just, I wanted to amplify that, Chandra.
No, and actually, Ben, that is an excellent point. In that you being the mentor and Al was looking for someone like you that had a skill set that he needed to go after contracts. But on the flip side, you as a mentor noticed in Al, he had a skill set, you said demolition, that you could benefit from. So that is another strategy that made it win-win for both of you. It wasn't just a win for Al as the protege, but you're also benefiting. So it's mutually beneficial for both of you, a win-win. Great point. Andrea and Raul, you want to chime in?
Sure. So I think as we've mentioned, Raul and I have known each other for a long time. Our companies have worked together, we've worked together. And I think in general, even going back to what Jill said in her slides, that, the SBA isn't putting companies together and saying, okay, go work together. It's really about building a relationship and finding companies that you have commonality with, both in terms of the type of work that you do. You want to be somewhat similar, as these gentlemen said as well, in a similar industry, but you also don't want to be the same company doing the exact same stuff. So having those complementary capabilities, I think, from what what you do, but then it's also a how you do business, that you're able to communicate well, that you can, call each other up when there's an issue or a problem and say, hey, let's figure this out, and just have a camaraderie of, not everything's going to go exactly right every time. That's just business and relationships, and having a like-minded attitude of, hey, let's figure this out. Let's come to a solution here that's fair for both companies and that takes good care of our customers, because that's really what we're trying to do in the end. So communication, I think, is key. And back to finding those companies that you can work well and communicate well with. And sometimes in life, people just don't get along, and that's okay, but those aren't the companies that should probably be going into these types of relationships.
Yeah, also I'd like to mention that, we're fortunate enough that we were in the same, co-located almost, in the same town, running the same kind of networks. So, when that happens, then not only the professional, but the personal reputation of people. And that kind of, helps foster the relationship a little bit as well. And then you really understand, if there's some compatibility there, rather than just, it makes it a little harder, in my opinion. If I'm here and my protege is in California, just the time zone alone, will be a challenge, right? So I think that helped us a lot as well.
Great. Piggybacking on a couple of the points that they made, as Andrea said, that Jill brought out, we even though we're hosting the matchmaker, the SBA is not a matchmaking service for small businesses. Yes, we are hosting a matchmaker that will be in Dayton, but we don't do matchmaking. We don't help proteges find mentors or vice versa. We don't help mentors find proteges, but actually finding companies that are complementary and compatible, as they mentioned, and not being in a rush. I think Al and Ben kind of brought that up. And so I think the beauty of the mentor protege relationship gives you that opportunity to kind of pan one another out. It's kind of a courting, if you will. And you can maybe team up, prime sub on a couple of contracts to see if there's a great fit. And as Andrea brought out, it's a reality. Sometimes it's not. And sometimes there may not, for whatever reason, and that's not a bad thing, but you do want to find a good fit and what works for you. And then when you find that, you definitely wouldn't want to go into a joint venture and you're not compatible and you don't get along. It has happened, but you definitely want to spend some time in that mentor-protege relationship to make sure it is a good fit. So I think Al touched on a little bit. He talked about, winning his first contract. Andrea and Raul or Ben, if you want to add to that, do you remember winning your first government contract through your mentor-protege joint venture relationship? And maybe describe a couple of key factors that help contribute toward the success of winning that award.
I remember ours because we got a size status protest lodged against us. So,
Memorable.
Then we had to write a hefty legal bill to intervene, but we prevailed, and it was actually a task order under a vehicle that we won as the company. But going through that again, just further communication, and Raul did a great job of having all of his paperwork in place that had been filed. So that, I think, is an important lesson of keep your paperwork, make sure your reports are going in on time, that you're doing the annual reporting, because we had to pull all of that. And it was crazy that, someone can lodge this protest basically by sending in a letter. And then we had to go back and defend everything we had done since the inception of our relationship. So that's a little bit of a tangent, but it was just an interesting thing that transpired as part of our first contract win. Raul, what about from your perspective?
The protest was actually looked like a form that they already have, that they just filled in the blank and they just faxed it or something. It was interesting. But yeah, that was key to have everything, all the paperwork, everything ready to go. But also, I mean, even prior to that, we have won another IDIQ, and one of my notes in here is be persistent, right? Because in that original IDIQ that we won, we already had the experience of doing it as full and open, and so we borrow from that experience, and that was the Anchor 3, Andrea. So we borrow from you guys' experience doing that proposal, to do the small business side of it, and we won it, even though we're still looking for our first task order on that. But at least we're one of 17, I think 17 companies that have access to that, to the vehicle. But yeah, I mean, just because you created the Mentor Protégé and joint venture agreement, make sure that you have all that paperwork up to date and ready to go, and that it all meets all of the requirements, because things change. When we first set this up, this was before the small business, before the all small. Wow. So then we had to update our JV agreement to be compliant with the most current regulations. So that was key, that we had everything ready to go. I remember talking to the attorney, and then she took it back to day one, asking me all these questions, and I'm like, wait a minute. I think she might have asked me because I think it was an SDV set aside. So I had to even, I had to prove that I was a disabled veteran, and it was pretty interesting. But yeah, you have to have everything ready to go, because a lot of these things are time sensitive when you get a protest. But,
Wow, that's definitely memorable. First contract and it being protested, but you guys were able to win it. But it is key keeping that paperwork, because sometimes firms may think, oh, we've gone through all that. It took so long. We had to submit so much paperwork, and then they may think, oh, we can excel. But keeping that paperwork and keeping it in order and making sure that you stay up to date with everything. But great story. Al and Ben, did you want to add anything additional with your remembering your first win?
Sure. Real quick. Yeah, the first win for us was, it was exciting, but it was also a training ground, for us as a mentor, and then for CPM as the protege. And fortunately, there was no protest. It was a very challenging project, and I was glad because we were selected for that project, and we were able to demonstrate that we understand what is needed and what needs to be done to make that job very successful. So that was a training ground for me as a mentor, and then also working with both of us spent a lot of time on that project. It's the hangar project, the Air Force One hangar Riper. We spent a lot of time on that project, making sure that we're able to communicate to the government. This is what we're gonna do. This is when we're gonna do it. This is how we're gonna do it. And more importantly, this is how we are going to perform it in the safest manner and still meet the deadline. So we didn't make a lot of money, like Al said, but it was a good resume that we have, and from we were able to move forward to winning several other task orders. Thank you.
So, thank you. Al, did you want to add?
So that was it. It was just exciting to work that project, because Ben has been down that road, and I was intimidated. Federal government right back. This is where the president's plane come. You can't mess it up, So, but we did it right, and I think we were able to find the right subcontractor for one difficult part of the job, which was, and we vetted about 3 of them, and I kept thinking, oh, this guy's right, all right. And something about my partner, when he gets an inkling, he didn't quite see it that way. And we finally settled on the right person, and they surely got it right.
All right.
That's what I
Well,
remember.
that I think brings up a great point, is that you're in a joint venture. It's kind of like a marriage. And so here you're thinking the sub is the right one, and definitely let's go with him. And then Ben said, I see something a little different. And so with that, I'm sure each, both mentor protege joint venture relationships you've experienced, we've heard one of Andrea and Raul's difficult, challenging, or major setbacks in your relationship. How were you able to kind of navigate addressing that, and kind of what lessons did you learn, and how did that help you to prepare for greater success? Anybody can.
Sure. Let me comment a little bit on that, Shannon.
Okay.
For CPM and AM, as we go about, performing these task orders, currently, there is a challenge, which I hope that we will overcome soon. And this is something that goes with the federal government. Sometimes, the government will not say things the way you saw it. And you have to go the extra mile to be able to your point, to be able to show, to be able to demonstrate, to be able to show them that this is the way you see it, but actually this is what it is. And you have to be willing to show that from different directions until somebody gets it, until somebody says, okay, now we see what you're saying. Okay, so that's where we are right now. It is part of doing business. So we are not intimidated by that at all. But it's just a challenge, something that we're going through, which I'm sure, soon that will be a history. So I just wanted to comment that, so that, it's never a cakewalk. You're gonna hit some, you're gonna hit some roadblock as you go, and that is part of doing business. And you as a mentor have to be prepared to know what to say and what to do. You're doing that, your protege is watching that, because sooner or later, he or she will have to, deal with that same type of problem or that same type of issue. So that's where remembering and taking good notes of the journey between the two companies, comes in handy. And for CPM and Al and I, we have so far we have worked well together, through our effective communication and being very open with each other, and working hand in hand, resolving issues as they come.
Great response. Great response. How did you want to share anything additional?
Yeah, along with that, I put down on my, questionnaire you sent me. So, communicate and also know the hierarchy, of your mentor or protege. Make sure you understand how they're evolving, how they're changing. If there's a new vice president, if there's a new contracts person, all those things must be communicated, and get to know them, because you're going to be working with them as you manage or bid on contracts. And that's all the way from from pricing to proposal development to contracts management to business development. So I think that's a key as well in the relationship.
Great, thank you, Raul.
I completely agree. And I love what Ben said as well, that it's not a cakewalk. And I think that's just especially for companies that are new to doing business with the government, it's hard and things happen. And I think just recognizing that this is just what we do. And part of being a government contractor is pivoting and dealing with adversity and overcoming challenges and picking your battles and making good business decisions and not letting the emotion of a loss or a protest or something not going your way cloud your business making decision. So I think that just looking at things through that lens of, is this a good business decision or not? Is the return on investment and the time and money we're going to spend doing these different actions, does that make sense? And I think that just having that perspective is key. And then also having a partner that you can talk through those things with and say, do we want to protest this? Does it make sense? Is the money that it costs to file a protest going to get us where we want to be, just as an example? So back to the communication and relationship, where I think a lot of this leads back to as well.
Yeah, wow. So it seems like really at every step and every stage of your relationship, that communication is not only key, but definitely critical to have and to definitely keep that open. Andrea, can you add a little bit to Ben had brought up a point in that in some of the challenges that he's faced in his relationship with Al, and it sounds like, you know, a couple projects or whatever, but the importance of not just addressing the challenge, but as a mentor, being prepared and knowing what to do because your protege is kind of looking to you. And so you're kind of an example of, you know, for them. Can you add or speak a little bit to that point?
And I think as companies in the mentor side, a lot of times we have more long-standing business processes, systems in place, you know, robust accounting systems, security clearances, ISO certifications, those types of things that a protege might not have. So I think being willing to offer advice and share that information, and also not just, you know, doing it and not letting the protege learn, but sharing that information is key. And I think also knowing that as a mentor, sometimes we make mistakes too. And we had an accounting error that we messed up, and we took responsibility for it because it was Peerless's fault that we messed that up. So I think as well, just it always goes back to the communication, but sharing your experiences, sharing your knowledge, and then also when you don't do something exactly right, being open about that as well and saying, how can we pivot and recover from this as quickly as possible?
Wow, I love that. Open communication, taking responsibility, definitely key. I think, and it must be a little tough with being a mentor and noticing a mistake, but I think it speaks volumes to, you know, your character and integrity that you're owning up to it, especially as the mentor. But I think that is something that Raul and his company definitely is grateful for. Based on just some of the challenges, some of the projects that you've had, knowing that especially after COVID, how the kind of landscape of federal government contracting has changed, based on your experiences, your knowledge, some of our small businesses that are participating on this panel today, what would you recommend for them? What would be a good time for them as a small business seeking out a mentor? You know, we definitely recommend if a company is just now starting, they probably don't want to get a mentor right away. But as they start to navigate into the federal landscape and they're looking at contracts, what would be a good time, would you recommend or you suggest would be a good time for a small business to seek out a mentor? And then for you, you can give your example and then give some suggestions. Give an example for and Raul and then Al.
You know, I think that it depends. I've seen companies that have, done either Mentor Protégé agreements or people that have companies that have joined the 8A program and they were completely unprepared. They've never done federal government business ever, and they think that they can apply for the 8A program, which, if they have the right experience, they will get certified. But now what?
Now what?
So now the clock is ticking, and you have no idea. Now they're trying to learn and how to bid on a contract and what an RFP is and what the acquisition process. It's like going to school. And then there are a couple different ways to do it, right? Either, I was fortunate enough that I was already here working, and I was learning as I went. It was probably, gosh, 15, almost 20 years of experience before. I got to where, even starting, we really didn't get going until 2014 or 15, full time. But I think sometimes, the SBA and the PTACs and the other ones, they can help, kind of helping you learn which groups to join, to learn about, federal government contracting, how to vet a consultant, if that's the way, that's another way you can go. But, there are consultants and there are consultants, right? How do you measure that person to make sure that they have your best interests at heart? And this is even before you can even really consider even going into, federal government contracting. Does whatever your company has been doing translate into any of the needs that the government has? So, yeah, it's a lot of preparation that goes into it, either by experience or you can have a few shortcuts, but it's a lot of work before you even get started.
A lot of work. Preparation is never wasted time. And even though Raul said, he said about 15, 20 years of experience, you definitely don't have to wait that long. But I think the essence of his point is that you do want to have an understanding a little bit about how federal government contracting works. If you have a certification, have some understanding about how everything works. And if you're able to get some experience, he, I believe, said he was working for an 8A firm. So he already had that background and experience that serves as a foundation that kind of helped him. So that preparation definitely is key. Al, did you want to add and chime in?
Yeah, just real quickly, I think it's, for me personally, I had a plan, a 3-year plan before I was going to step out. And I think you have to have a window where your company by itself is getting some experience under its belt. So you don't come to a mentor completely empty, no experience, no financials. It don't have to be $1 million, but you have to have something that you showed you worked on your own. And my company has had this success. We're not in debt, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's perfect timing, 3 to 4 years. And then actually it may take another year to get suited and approved with the right person. That's my personal strategy. I can tell you from experience, everybody I've known that jumped in right away is out and gone. They didn't make it past 4 years because they had all the wrong impression on how it's going to work.
I think that's an excellent point, in that sometimes some small businesses may have the perception that the mentor protege relationship or the joint venture is their golden ticket to winning that first contract. And no, I don't have the experience, but once I get in that mentor protege or joint venture relationship, that's going to be the key. That's going to give me access to win. So you definitely can't come to the table empty-handed, but you have to bring something. So great point. Now, a couple points for the mentors. What would you say? There could be somebody on here, or maybe somebody that's going to watch on the replay. Maybe they've been doing federal government contracting for years. They've been successful as a small business, and now maybe they were in the 8A program, or maybe they have another certification. And I think it was Ben's point, they want to give back, or they may still want to have access to a certain type of contract. What are 2 or 3 key principles that help you navigate kind of your industry to become a successful mentor? You know, at some point, maybe you didn't start off saying, yeah, I want to be a mentor. But as you started moving along, you said, you know what, I want to be a mentor. But what are 2 or 3 key principles that you could share with the audience that help you navigate, to help you be a successful mentor?
Well, thank you, Chandra. That's a great question. Because everything looks great from a distance.
Yeah.
You know, for me, like you rightfully articulated, once again, you know, there's a commitment, you know, to give back, you know, to the organization that helped me, you know, to be successful, which is SBA, and more specifically SBA Columbus. And more specifically, you know, the lady that is here with us in the person of Jill Nagy. You know, I've known her for a very long time, and I'm telling you, you know, Jill has been consistent. And when I say consistent,
Heard my name.
we have an issue, we have a problem.
Yeah.
You can count on coming to her and getting some level of a solution.
It's
So,
not always pretty, but yes.
well, that's what I said, Jim. You know, you can count on getting an answer. And then with that answer, you apply yourself. And the end of that is success. So, yeah, she never spoon-fed anybody. But here's the information, and this is what you can do with this. It's not up to you to take the information and apply yourself and make it happen. So for me and for our as an organization, you know, I had the commitment that I want to do this, okay? And it was in Cleveland on one of the small business conference that's where I met you know, to your point and Jill's point, you have to get out there, you have to go to this networking event, industry day, small business conferences, you know, to be seen and meet people. That's where Al and I met. And from then on, it took over 1 year before we agreed to move forward with this, just understanding each other. So the commitment and the determination, and then the third one is integrity. You have to be a person of integrity. In our industry, integrity is everything. Your reputation follows you and is spreads like a bushfire. Whether it's positive or whether it's negative, it doesn't matter. So integrity is what brought us together. You know, we are sitting over here right now discussing as a partner because I took his time to do research into this organization and myself and said, no, this is an organization that I think that, you know, we can work together. So the 3 principles that has helped us is commitment, determination, and integrity. So as a mentor, this has become our guiding principles, you know, to our success today.
Awesome. I think that's wonderful. And I think Andrea kind of spoke about that integrity and gave us a great example of, hey, we made a mistake, but we're open and honest. We're going to share it. We're going to bring it up. And that speaks volumes to you as a company. But I also like being that in addition to those qualities, the resources and working with Jill, she's definitely a great resource to help you as a mentor and has helped you along your development while in the 8A program and even outside of it. So definitely having great resource partners, your BOS to assist you and leaning upon them if and when you need them. So I think that's actually a great point. I know we definitely do have questions, but I know we're down to almost the 15-minute point, but I do want to see if you do have questions. I have more that I could ask the panel, but if you have a specific question, if you want to type it in the chat, or you may even come off mute.
Well, we
If-
did have a question earlier, just, I think we've answered it, but just along the lines of, I see that SBA doesn't match mentors with Protege. How can I identify a mentor? And I think we've talked about that quite a bit. It's just, but I'll let the mentors in Proteges, if they have, I think you've done a good job of talking about how you decided to work together, but there's really no, say you had never met each other, Raul and Andrea, you didn't know each other. And how would you go about trying to find a mentor or protege?
That's good.
I do think that relationship is key. I think one thing that you probably could do, but this goes back to having a network of people, is if you were looking for something in particular, I think really thinking about what it is that you bring to the table, because, you know, we're in a partnership, so the protege does need to bring some things to the table as well. And then thinking about what it is that you're looking for and why you want a mentor, and almost putting that into like a one-pager or some sort of description. And I would hit like LinkedIn and say, you know, hey friends, this is my company and what I have to offer to a mentor, and this is the type of company that I'm looking to partner with. Does anyone have any recommendations of someone that I can, you know, if we're geographically together, go have coffee with? If we're not, do a virtual meeting. But just put the word out there. I think with, you know, networking is really important, but you can virtually network as well. And again, that works a lot better if you have 700 LinkedIn connections versus 7, but just trying to get the word out there, I think, is one creative idea that you could potentially do if you're kind of looking for somewhere to start. And it also forces you to have the discipline of saying, well, where do I really want to go? What am I trying to get out of this relationship? And committing that to paper before you even start down that path.
Right.
Do you recommend that before hopping into the mentor protege, like should you try a subcontract together first to just to see how that works out? Or because we often compare like a subcontract would be dating and the mentor protege and JV would be a marriage.
Definitely think that if the business development life cycle is such that you're able to do that, then I think that makes sense. I think sometimes if you have a big IDIQ or a particular type of opportunity that you want to go after that would really be a game changer for your company or relationship, you might not have the luxury of being able to do that. But in any way, the more time you can spend together, the more that you can, ideally in a more formal relationship like a subcontractor or even just a teaming arrangement where you've put in bids together, all of that working together, I think, is a down payment on a successful mentor protege relationship.
Great.
I think from the protege's perspective, you got to keep in mind that you're the one that has to do the work initially, you know, in terms of vetting, in terms of getting the relationship going, in terms of, you know, the paperwork. It's just like starting a business, you know. I talk to people that all the time, and hey, you know, I think you should, okay, let's go. And then, you know, let's go means feels like you're talking to somebody to the mirror, you know what I mean? Because you don't see any action on the other end of the relationship. But, you know, as a protege, you need to understand that you have to do the initial legwork in the relationship.
You know, I think also it is important that we just get out and communicate. Keep playing in business cards. I would go to matchmaker knowing I didn't really need to match up with nobody else, but you're gonna meet that woman, that other person. When I decided to go into a another JV, I came to an event you guys had in Columbus. There was an old schoolmate. Wow, another opportunity. Communicate with people. You never know. They may tell somebody else, and you get a chance to see if it'll work. It is like the dating versus the marriage type thing, but you're gonna either way you go. Remember, in your 8A program or your JV program, you have a time clock, so you got to get busy. So don't let all your time go by and wait too late, then you don't have a long time to participate in it. So just communication and know what you want as a uh, protege where you want to take your company.
Awesome. I think in all of the scenarios, and I love the unique one that Andrea gave. I never thought about that. Something different, innovative, thinking out the box, LinkedIn, but at the end of the day, relationships, maybe looking at the relationships that you have, business relationships. Al said there was an old schoolmate that he ran into. Andrea and Raul had known each other for a long time. So maybe looking at those business relationships, maybe you've never done business in the past, but you've been colleagues, you've known this person, they're integrable, you've had a good relationship, you're compatible, then maybe starting there and definitely going to events, networking events. And if you work with, even though we don't match up small businesses, but if you work with myself or Jill, and you may ask, we know our firms and we may know who potentially could be compatible. And we may say, hey, do you know this person? And maybe do an introduction. But of course, it's definitely up to the businesses to connect. But kind of starting at that point. Again, I don't know if anybody has, I definitely don't want this to end. If you had a question for the panel, if you wanna, you can come off mute to ask it. Any of the panelists, if you have a question.
I would like to add one thing.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
see it here in my notes. When we say what we're looking for in a minute, one of the things you have to ask yourself is what is their back office? What's making Ben run well? I know Ben is a 1 o'clock in the morning guy, but there's somebody in the office, there's a superintendent somewhere, there's an engineer somewhere, there's somebody that write proposals. Because if you make the marriage, either way through teaming or JV, that becomes your back office too. And you'll have to work with those people too. So do they have a CPA? A lot of things that you need to know but that back office is strong, because somebody with no back office and just flinging it, I wouldn't suggest it.
So Al became a 1 o'clock AM guy too?
Yeah. If Ben's up to 12:30, 1 o'clock, he'll call you with a question wide awake. But it's all good.
I mean, that's a
because
really good
it
point.
makes the team.
It is.
Yeah, it makes the team works, and so everybody in his back office, we get along well. He gets along with my wife and my 2 or 3 sons real well. They've done work for him, not only in the business but also privately. So it works. Now we're just one big blended family, and those are some of the unique things you got to know you have in common. I coached for 40 years. His son wants to be a basketball player. So I start taking him in the spring and working him out with the ex-NBA player. But that's the unique relationship
that's
we have.
awesome.
You know, he'll bring him on. He'll bring him to Dayton, and I'll jump in and take him back to Cincinnati. But that's the love we have for each other outside of our business. So we realized, and I think Ben said to me about a year ago, when our time is up, we're really not going to be up. And that meant a lot to me. Because I was in as Jill know, and you know, I was in dire straits before this good marriage came along for me. So, you know, it's important that you get to know all aspects of what's making that mentors program successful.
So
Because you're
you're
the 51%. Now you the guy that's gonna have to answer a lot of questions too.
yes. So Al, you're not just Al, the owner, CEO of CPM Enterprises. You're Uncle Al now to Ben's son,
Yeah.
if you're taking on that relationship. So, you know what? I love that point, that looking at their back offices, and even though you may complement one another, you know, they're integrable, but what does their back office, do they have a CPA? How do they run their payroll? What are their books, their financial statements? And I think when we were doing the dry run, Andrea brought up a great point. And maybe if she can speak into that, where you said you and Raul, there was a issue that came up, or you were working on a project and you and Raul were fine, but somebody on your team. So there were some differences or something, you know, at the team level, you know, behind the scenes, but it wasn't you. So how important is it to, you know, make sure that not only that the owners of the company work well together, but the teams, if the teams don't blend, is that a red flag? You know, what should somebody do?
Well, that's what I was trying to allude to earlier when I was talking about hierarchy and, you know,
Oh.
also, you know, looking at the change, how an organization evolves, you know, and how the players change and those relationships. And you have to foster that not only at the owner level, but also, you know, at every level of the organization. In that way, communication flows a lot better. So that's what I was trying to say earlier. Yeah.
Awesome. Andrea, you want to?
Yeah, and I think just knowing that it's a collection of people working together, and sometimes people are going to have different personalities. But I think from a leadership perspective, if you continue to express that this relationship is important strategically, it's important to you know, me as the president of this company, this mentor protege relationship is important, working out the problems are important, and it's, you know, in everyone's best interest to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction. I think you can help alleviate, you're not going to alleviate every little conflict and every little slight, you know, differing of opinion, but I think knowing that we are committed to moving in the right direction, to problem solving, to working together, that sets the stage for the team of, oh, well, we should probably go try and figure this out instead of just complaining and throwing up roadblocks and not being a good partner.
Great. Well, we are down to the last few minutes, and I don't think any of our participants have any questions. So to kind of close us out, if you want to give 3 minutes apiece, if you want to give some advice to those that may be considering entering into a mentor-protege relationship, give some advice for that, and then also give some advice and tips for those that may be considering going to the matchmaker. What should they do, you know, to prepare? What should they do while they're there? So if you can kind of speak to two things, kind of give best practices or whatever as it relates to entering into a mentor-protege joint venture relationship, and then also giving some keys and pointers to being successful at the matchmaker on May 8th and May 9th. And anybody can start.
Well, I'm going to be there. So if anybody out there want to come up and talk to me after we go through our little panel thing, feel free. But number one, you're going to get into this, as we all said here, do your homework, have your timetable set out, bring something to the table, know the individual and know the background, because as you sign those government papers, and they had a felony or something you wasn't aware of, it's pity for you because you should have known it. And it's between, it's going to take a while to get that straight. So know your person and know, that they haven't had any legal troubles. Also, like I said, what you're going to bring to the table and what they're going to bring to the table. Don't be intimidated. One thing that my mentor was able to do for me is say, don't worry about it, and pointed out more strengths that I had through what I was presenting than I realized. I had the experience of already working for the federal government at the FERNAUT for 12 years. That was big in his eyes because I understood how the government worked, and I wore different hats during that time period as a contractor. So don't be afraid of what you don't have. Just stand strong on what you got and bring it to the table. When you go to that this matchmaker, understand who you want to talk to, and go outside sometime. I mean, you might be in technology, but see what EPA is offering. Sometimes they need technical assistance in their area, and they're a big customer, so think outside the box. Go to different financial institutions just to see they're competing for your dollar. So you want to be in position that if you need that dollar, you got 2 or 3 people that you have met that you can call on now. So it's a great event. You only help yourself by going, and then I would go at least 2 or 3 times, and then maybe go to the national one if you ever have that opportunity. But the local one is a great opportunity. Very, very diverse people to talk to. And even though I'm winding down, I still make my rounds when I'm there.
Awesome. Thank you, Al. Anybody can go next.
Well, real quick, I think these are great points. I just wanted to say from my perspective, anybody that is trying to or contemplating getting into the program, either as a mentor or a protege, these are the 3 inescapable things you have to consider and make sure you're comfortable with those things. And number 1 is, define your own expectation. Why are you getting into the program? What do you expect to get out of the program? Are you in the program to give back and support somebody? Or are you in the program for other reasons? Number 1. Number 2, understand the expectation of SBA from you as a mentor or as a protege. It doesn't matter. Understand what the program requires you to do. So like I was saying, so you can now do your own personal inventory and see how you match up with those things. As a mentor, understand the needs and the expectation of the protege, okay, as you're going into the relationship, because I've seen where this falls apart. Well, I thought they're gonna do this. I thought that, they're gonna give me this, and that's not happening because people do not understand what the program is all about before they jump into it. So like I said earlier, it's a business development program. Whether you are the protege or whether you are the mentor, that needs to be understood. And then there are other things, like Al said, stay out of trouble. Have a well-defined business ethics. What are the principles that govern your organization? As a mentor, you have to be financially healthy to be able to support the protege when there's need, whether it's bonding, whether it's infusing cash into the relationship for a project to keep going, or whatever that is. So these are the basic fundamental things that must be considered by either party before jumping into the program. I think it helps everybody when that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Shonda, I think it's also key to remember that you still have your company to run, right?
Mm,
Right.
yeah,
A lot of proteges think that, okay, well, now I found this fantastic mentor, and that's what I'm gonna go with. But there are other things out there that you need to continue to do.
so how do you balance, that's a great point, but how do you balance that, the mentor protege joint venture relationship with still having to fully run your own company?
Well, I think it happens in the background. But you just have to be aware, that you can't just rely what that relationship is gonna bring you. As fantastic as our relationship has been, I continue to do other things, and of course, and peerless us too, So, and that's just the way it needs to be. Otherwise, it becomes a real crutch,
Yeah.
At some point, you don't have to let it go and be able to survive on your own, And the A program too, right? I mean, you have to be able to
Yeah,
let it go and move on,
yeah, hence there's only 2 years that you can have that joint venture relationship, so that also is a factor too, so, but great point.
After your first win, your joint venture is only good for 2 years. You can create more than one joint venture under the Mentor Protégé.
That is true, that is true.
Roll down.
That is true, those are, but that can make a difference, it can make a difference.
Professor Jill has done a good job.
Yeah, we've had to change several of our A&A firms' dates from the time that their first joint venture, they apply and they get the joint venture status, but it's until you win your first contract, that's actually going to be your start date, is what he's talking about. So in some instances, it could be a year, so it could shift your timeline. So it does make a difference. Thank you.
And if I could comment just quickly, I know we got to go, but that's so important what he said. It really feels good when you get your review and see government income 50 something, your company income, your 40 something, that you're working and just not sitting around waiting on your mentor to make sure you eat. You gotta bust your butt. I agree, Raul, and it's challenging because you gotta make sure you got work coming in. So that's so true.
Yep, working and knowing the rules. Andrea.
I know we've talked about it, but I just really want to stress, know the rules, know the regs, know what's expected of you. We shared the example earlier of how we were hit with a size status protest. And if we didn't have all that paperwork in place, if Raul wasn't able to produce all of that paperwork, we would not have been able to keep that award. And that would have been a lot of time, a lot of money, just that we lost because we didn't have the paperwork. So know, what's due when, and submit it and save it, but then also understand how the program works and what those regs are. So knowing that once you win your first contract, you're on a 2-year clock. So be strategic. Maybe don't submit a, $200,000 contract without a robust pipeline right behind it, because it's good and bad. You won a contract, great, but now you're on the clock and you only have 2 years from today left to win awards as that joint venture. So knowing that timeline applies, when it kicks in, helps make sure that you're strategic in making the best business decisions. So just really understanding how the program works, putting the time in to do the research ahead of time so that you're ready to be a successful participant in the program.
Awesome. Great, wonderful advice from all of our panelists. We want to definitely thank Andrea Kunk from Peerless, Al Powell from CPM Enterprises, Ben Nwankwo from Iowa Business Corporation, and Raul Sierra from SeerTech. And thank you for joining us today. We want to give them a hand. Always, I think Jill and I think I'm more excited for these panels because when somebody's given the hands, we learn so much. Even as BOSs, I love to hear the stories about, you know, challenges they work through, but the successes and the wins that they've had. So some of them will be at the matchmaker. Hopefully you'll get a chance to meet them. But again, thank you for your participation today. And Jill, do you wanna close us out and give, you know, some more comments about the matchmaker and just kind of wrap us up? You're on mute.
I was gonna say, I love the panels too. They're
Don't
awesome.
you? I love them.
Well, and when Al said, hey, Ben had to teach me about not taking that subcontractor on. I love that because that's, those are
Listen.
stuff, you know, it's just, how else are you gonna learn?
Yeah.
So, no, thank you so much, everybody. It's always great. I'd love to, because I feel like I'm always talking at people. So to be able to hear what happens behind the curtain, and as I was like the back off, absolutely. You have to know how those operations go before you enter into a relationship together. So I do highly recommend, please attend the matchmaker if you can. For those of us who have been doing it for years, it's more like a reunion. And then, you know, getting new family members in. We're always looking for new family members. So thank you so much for your time today. All right.
All right. And we hope to see you May 8th and May 9th at the matchmaker
Yes, we
in
do.
Dayton at the Nutter Center. Again, thank you to our panelists. I almost don't want it to end. If you really enjoyed this panel, there'll be another panel at the matchmaker of small businesses sharing their more success stories and more tips and suggestions to assist you, and on the 8th, and then another panel for prime contractors. Is that?
Yeah, well, it's evolving. So
Yes.
thank you. Peerless will be on that panel. I appreciate it. And Al is going to be on the successful contractor. So it's the second one is a fireside chat with contracting professionals. So we have Peerless, we have Cincinnati Metro RTA, maybe the Columbus airports, maybe Battelle. So it's going to be like suggestions on getting started subcontracting, but then also with prime contracting. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day. This is the last webinar of our series. And again, we hope to see you at the matchmaker. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.